Okay.
Really?
When I say lo-fi hip-hop, what comes to mind? Is it this?
Yo.
Pretty good chance it's that. It's all over YouTube in many permutations, relentlessly suggested, streamed, discussed. It's the study music and the lo-fi girl. In fact, it's so much the lo-fi girl, the channel hosting it was like, well, maybe that should just be our name. For a long time, when I heard lo-fi music, I thought of this. You know, low fidelity, as in low recording quality. Though fidelity actually means faithfulness, so I guess the idea is that the recordings are not faithful to the actual sound that the musicians are creating. Although, ironically, what I feel when I listen to something like this is more immediacy, more connection. Here's Robert Pollard from Guided by Voices. It was important to me that we capture a song in the least amount of time from when I conceived it to when we put it on tape. That's the way to capture the purest essence of a song. Some of the best music is recorded exactly the way it's conceived and created. It's all happening simultaneously. It's just you and them and the song. That's roughly what I felt when I first saw lo-fi hip-hop popping up. As YouTube expanded faster than it could be tamed, there was a vaguely lawless punk rock strain of creativity. Anything and everything could be remixed, memed, sampled. The people behind it were anonymous, out of the spotlight. It was all about the work, the creativity. The barriers to entry were crumbling. Anyone with a good idea can get it out there.
Then it goes a little something like...
But is that what I felt? It's weird to think back, but personally I wanted these mixes before I even knew about them. Huh? Before the giant background music with visuals ecosystem, I would seek out music with a certain vibe when I wanted to block out stress and focus and feel like things were okay. A specific new Jabas mix on YouTube was my go-to whenever I needed a minute to myself, to recharge. It was a great track list. I wish I could find it again, but I think it disappeared years ago. So was the first time I saw a lo-fi mix a YouTube suggestion because of my listening history? Maybe. Or maybe I wasn't alone and everyone had a corner of their listening habits carved out for something similar. It was a niche and a need that everyone had, waiting for the right beats and tones and feelings to come along and satisfy it.
Lonely, but not when you hold me.
The first I heard was Get Some Rest Lo-Fi Hip Hop Mix Part 1. The title itself is one of those great phrases. Get some rest. So simple, but oddly so much implicit compassion.
Hey, listen.
The visual's perfect too. The peaceful rain, the cozy room, the tired sprawled out girl. It's an image from the Studio Ghibli movie Whisper of the Heart, which is actually the source of a lot of iconic lo-fi mix visuals, including the original girl at the table studying. It's a coming-of-age movie about young love and becoming an artist, and surprisingly does, as a whole, feel like an aesthetic and emotional fit for the lo-fi beat world. The Japanese title actually translates to If You Listen Closely. What is that lo-fi beat world? Well, that's a matter of a lot of debate. A lot of coverage focuses on the background music and studying element, and a lot of the references are centered specifically on the most widely viewed iteration. The live stream on Lo-Fi Girl Nay Chilled Cow called Lo-Fi Hip Hop Radio Beats to Study / Relax To. Which makes sense, it's probably the one most people know, but it's misguided to consider it as the totality of the form, or what it was inevitably building towards. I think decrying the genre as some sort of modern failure of music or of an indication that people are becoming more brain dead is a mistake. This is from a 2019 New Yorker article by Amanda Petrusic. The rise of chill as an aspirational state suggests that perhaps the best thing to feel is not much at all. The song continued. Maybe it ended. I don't know. Do you enjoy this? I asked my students. They found the question silly, if not fatuous. The music wasn't really for liking in the traditional sense. The music wasn't for anything. It merely existed to facilitate and sustain a mood, which in turn might enable a task. Studying, folding laundry, making spreadsheets, idly browsing the internet.
Quick side note, I disagree with this take, but I like Petrusic's writing and Do Not Sell at Any Price is an awesome read about early American recorded music.
Okay, anyway, people study and zone out to all sorts of things. Some people use classical music. Some people use heavy metal. I worked with a guy once who couldn't sleep unless he was blasting drum and bass. To me, the only necessity is to be mostly instrumental, just because it's hard to hear words and write different words at the same time. Jazz was once the wildest, most scandalous music to exist, and now it's right at home in the background at Starbucks. In fact, I'm writing this paragraph to Charles Mingus. I mean, not to him, to a track by him. And it's not really by him, it's... Okay, this is too many digressions. It must be the jazz. The New Yorker was right! There's so many offshoots and subgenres of lo-fi and so little standardized analysis or canon.
So many things. I guess that's what I love most about her. You know, she isn't just one thing. So much larger than that.
Lo-fi girl Nay Chilled Cow is, I would say, the torchbearer. Their first two lo-fi hip-hop mixes, Get Some Rest and To Be Alone, are stone-cold classics, and established a lot of the tone for what would come next. Nowadays, they've leaned into the whole study vibe thing and are kind of more like, I don't know, a business. And notably, none of their mixes from prior to 2 years ago are still up, allegedly due to copyright issues. Though the really good ones are beloved enough to keep getting re-uploaded by random people. Many of the big channels latched onto the word chill, and alternatively call the music chill hop. That's chill, I guess. The Bootleg Boy, I would say, is the heir to that original elegiac vibe, and his I Will Wait For You Until the Very End series is another of my very favorites. This is also a channel where lo-fi intersects with, maybe I'd say, a sister movement called Simpson Wave.
I blame Chill Wave for these naming conventions. I call it Chill Wave Gate.
Which involves repurposing Simpsons imagery for really anything you want, but in this case kind of oddly wistful or nostalgic video loops. There are a handful of channels that do this. Some of them evolved into more immersive custom tableaus that, to be honest, kind of give me motion sickness. And a lot of them became venues for illustrators and their own resonant imagery. Steezy's Frick is more firmly in the hip-hop vein and I think has the best live stream. It's also got a nod to Madlib with the little Lord Quas figure, who, along with Nujabes and Jay Dilla, are probably the most immediate musical influences on this sound. This is probably a good time to point out that these channels aren't making the tracks themselves. They're more like old-school radio DJs. Maybe they're even getting payola. Who knows? Probably not. That would be not chill. The songs come from thousands of different SoundCloud and Bandcamp beat makers. Some have big followings, some are just starting out. Some left the genre behind years ago. Some seem to have dropped off the face of the earth with only a few tunes behind. Anyway, Axion's another classic. Dozing Off and Dozing Off Again were big and presaged some of the Beats to Study 2 element. Emotional Tokyo's video loops are on point and feature a lot of cool chopped and screwed style rap remixes that have come to be known as funk. 130 Mood has great taste, but I don't really like when the tracklist text is on the screen the whole time. This is probably a good time to point out that I like to play these on a TV, and the visuals are key. It's gotta, tie the room together. Let me quote a different New Yorker article. In the social media era, though, vibe has come to mean something more like a moment of audiovisual eloquence, a sympathetic resonance between a person and her environment, as Robin James, a professor of philosophy at UNC Charlotte, wrote. You said it, Robin James. I want that delicious audiovisual eloquence. I appreciate the whole pantheon of all the interrelated subgenres because there's a lot of bases to cover. Sometimes you're trying to party. Sometimes you're winding down. Sometimes your smile is my most favorite thing in this world. Sometimes it's 2 a.m. and I still miss you. The best mixes evoke a lot of feeling. Touch that spot just out of your memory's reach. Songs you know are sad just from the drums. Strings you feel swelling in your heart. Little movie clips you can't quite place, but suddenly you're a teenager again when you hear them.
Maybe another time.
Yeah, but there may not be another time.
Here's another musician, Burial, who also creates in a lo-fi, low-tech mode. This is a 2012 interview with The Wire. Sometimes you get that feeling like a ghost touched your heart, like someone walks with you. In London, there's a kind of atmosphere that everyone knows about, but if you talk about it, it just sort of disappears. London's part of me. I'm proud of it, but it can be dark. Sometimes recently, I don't even recognize it. It's about being on a night bus or with your mates, walking home across your city on your own late at night, or being in a situation with your girlfriend or boyfriend, or coming back from a club, or putting tunes on and falling asleep. If you're well into tunes, your life starts to weave around them. Your life weaves around the music. Or does the music weave around your life? Because of the nature of YouTube and copyrights and all that, the mixes slip away so easily. There's an ethereal quality. They're impermanent. Whatever happened to that good Nujabes mix? It's the polar opposite of a big pop album rollout. When you find a good one, there's no guarantee it will even be there tomorrow. There are tracks, mixes, channels I vaguely remember that I have no idea how to track down. Maybe I made them up. They're just a ghost. But I felt something and I remember it. Sometimes I come across a track that I've never heard, but it has a ton of resonance and history for other people. Like I'm walking through someone else's dream. I wonder if other people treasure my favorites like I do.
This is going to be such an exciting day. I hope you enjoy it. I think you will.
This is Eric Satie's Gymnopédie No. 1, which is also a popular lo-fi sample. It's thought that when he wrote it, he was attempting to capture the feeling of paintings by the artist Pierre Puvis de Chavannes. With their clear melodic phrases, exquisite lightness, and fresh texture, Satie literally blew away the pomp and rhetoric of the old order. Here was a music of repetition with strong emphasis on chords, which seemed simpler and more fitting to a new age. The ability of these beautifully riveting miniatures to capture a sense of spiritual calm and induce quietude has made them famous the world over. That's from Mark Prendergast's The Ambient Century. This is probably a good time to point out that the comment sections on these videos are overflowing with compassion and commiseration. It's one of the few places on YouTube that's like that. There's something both communal and deeply personal about it all, which should be contradictory, but I guess they're just glad to have found their way there. Glad it wasn't a ghost. It's just you and them and the song.
I'm not perfect. I can't see anything that I don't like about you.